Today, we're going to talk about something really simple, the difference between getting keynote gigs and selling your expertise. I know I've mentioned this before, but I wanted to mention this again because I keep getting questions around essentially both. And the problem is when you try to do both, you get nothing done. And so I really want to talk about the difference between the two. When I see a lot about just speaking online or just looking at all the other advice, people tend to mix the businesses. They mix the business of selling your expertise with getting paid keynote gigs. They're two completely different businesses. It is literally like saying, I want to be the greatest basketball player in the world. At the same time, I want to build a football career. It's literally like saying that. Literally saying I want to build an expert-based business and I want to get keynote gigs. They're completely different things. And so that's why I really want to go over these two. And then once again, guys, if you have any questions, make sure you ask the questions and I'll go over those questions. So what's up, peeps? Maggie, Wani, what's up, everybody? All the other people I didn't see who hopped on. All right. So what's up? What is that? Micah? All right, cool. So we're going to go over the difference between the two. I'm going to talk about the daily activities between the two in terms of getting the end result, because it's like I said, every single time I read online and I see this whole thing about selling your expertise, people think that they're one and the same. And when you assume they're one and the same, what happens is you tend to do things, you don't get results in either one of them because you're doing too much ultimately. So the more you tend to do, the less you'll tend to get done. Well, if you're just if you're multitasking, you're doing a lot, but you're getting nothing done. So it's almost like you're jumping up and down and you're really going nowhere. It's like you feel like you're doing a lot, but you're really going nowhere. And so we got to talk about the difference between the keynote business and selling expertise, because it's really simple. To get keynote gigs, you literally just do two things. You literally just focus on your website and you reach out to events. That's literally all you do. Two things. You focus on your website, get a really great website, and then you reach out to events. Cold email, cold calling, however you want to reach out to events, you reach out to events. Now the details come in terms of the details of the website. How do you build a great looking website? Or when you're reaching out, how do you pitch the right way when you're reaching out? Even small details like, actually a Speak Pro member literally just posted this inside the group. So I have the email templates for all the members, right? And this happened a while ago where I was talking with a VA company, and the VA company was going to help a ton of speakers. But the problem is they kept changing my templates, and I kept telling everybody, don't change my stuff. The reason it is the way it is because I've done this my entire freaking life. I've never had a job. I've done this my entire life. I tested out many different ways of doing this, and this is the best way. So what happens is people take my emails, they say, nah, it can't be that simple. It's not, he just says one sentence. So they add extra stuff to it. And by adding extra stuff, they do it all wrong. And so, I don't know where I was going with that, but I was going somewhere pretty brilliant with that whole thing. Ultimately, what I want to say is, when you are building the different businesses, you need to understand that there's two different businesses in terms of the keynote and the expert-based business. And that's what I was talking about. So the details of the keynote business, when you're reaching out, it's like you're looking for the small details. You get the website, you have the small details of reaching out and pitching. It's like the first template is essentially, hey, who hires the speakers for your event? That's basically all it says. Literally one sentence. That's all it says. But people tend to add extra stuff. And I'm talking about extra stuff here, said many organizations hire speakers and trainers each year for their leadership and employee events. Does your organization do that? If so, can you tell me who hires for that? Who hires for that in your company? I'd love to reach out to them directly. So that is too much compared to my template where it's basically, hey, who hires the speakers? Or if you're selling training, hey, who hires the training in your company? Or hey, who hires the entertainment in your company, right? So it's very different. It's technically saying the same thing, but the way it's being said is very different. And so this is why you focus on one of them in terms of either a keynote or an expert-based business, because you need small details. The small details are what's going to make the difference in any business you have. And so if you're building a keynote business, if you want to get keynote gigs, you have to look at small details, like the difference between saying all that versus just saying, hey, who hires the keynote speakers, right? So you got to look at small details like that. That's one of the reasons why so many people struggle when they're trying to do both. They're trying to build their expert-based business while trying to build their keynote-based business. And by doing that, they can't focus on the small details that build either one. They end up getting too generic with their knowledge, with their information. It's just too generalized. That is why they can't actually get what they want. So if you are selling your expertise, you have to get very specific about the problem you solve, about how you're going to spend money on the ads, all that sort of stuff. You got to get specific on your business. If you're splitting your focus between spending money on ads, creating content, a podcast, all this sort of content, and then trying to get keynote gigs at the same time. If you're trying to split your focus like that, you're going to get nothing done, because creating content consumes a lot of time. Like, where do you come up with the ideas for the content, editing the content, all that sort of stuff. And then spending money on ads. How do you know you have good ad copy, a good image? How do you actually place the ad? What do you do when the ad eventually runs out? Because eventually people are going to have ad fatigue. They're not going to want to see it anymore, and then it's not going to be as effective. So it's like all this time is being spent on your expert business. Then you have little time to spend on your keynote business in terms of, how do I improve the website? Like, what pictures should I create for the website? What about the text? And, what about when I reach out? How do I use a CRM the right way? How do I follow up the right way? So it's like you're splitting your focus between all these things, and you're getting nothing done. So you have to choose. And the best way is you simply say, I'm going to do this one until I reach X. So let's say you say, I'm going to do keynote gigs until I reach $200,000. Once I reach $200,000, then I'll add the online portion. I'll start building the expert-based portion of it. So you have to do that. Otherwise, you're splitting your focus. All right, and remember, guys, if you have any questions, make sure you ask the questions, and then I'll go back to the questions in just a second. But understand, so here's the daily activities in terms of both businesses, right? So let's say you want to build your expert-based business. You're going to be the expert. First thing everybody says, you got to figure out, what exactly are you the expert in? So you're sitting there thinking about, what am I the expert in? So you're sitting there thinking about all that stuff. Then you think about the problem that you specifically solve for a person. Like, hey, do you help them lose weight? Do you help them be a better poker player? What's the specific problem? On top of that, you have to learn how to describe this problem the right way. Because if you describe it the wrong way, then people just won't buy, right? So you start out in terms of the problem you solve for a specific person. And then from there, you end up doing things like you create your landing page, your squeeze page to opt in. You create the product. If you don't have a product that you're going to sell, you have to know how to create the offer around it. So how do you actually offer it in the right way? So you got to learn how to do that. You create the sales page, the landing page. Now you start creating your ads. So how do you sit down, create your ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, Google ads, whatever ads you want to create. But you got to sit down and create the advertising. So you have to get really good at copywriting, and then the copywriting, or maybe just video. Maybe you're filming a video. So you basically have to get good at selling in terms of just speaking in a video, right? And so you have to get good at those things. And then finally, once you get your opt-in page up, when you get your product ready, when you get your ad ready, you're getting people onto your list. Now you got to learn how to write the emails in terms of autoresponders, how to write in a way where people are willing to click on the link to see your videos, see your content, to click on a link to buy your program. Now you got to get good at copywriting with the emails and all that. And then you have to actually get good at creating the content. And so this is where a Speak Pro member, Dan, where he mentioned, he was like, man, you make Facebook Live look easy, because he did like a Facebook Live, and he was like, oh, you make it look easy and stuff. And it's just because a lot of times when you're creating content, it looks easy when you see someone do it, and then you do it, and all these things just end up popping up. You're like, what do I say? You're creating content. You're like, well, what do I say? And how do I keep it going? And how do I keep people interested the entire time? So you're doing all this just as you're creating content. That is just to build your expert-based business. And you have to keep doing that. You have to overcome little fears, like fear of spending money on advertising because you're afraid you're going to lose the money. So you got to overcome fears like that. You got to overcome the fact that nobody's going to buy your program, because in the beginning, you don't know how to describe it the right way. So nobody's going to buy the program. And so you got to figure out, how do I describe this in a better way? And so you're figuring all that stuff out. That is pretty much all the stuff you're doing for the expert-based business. Then comes your Keynote based business. Your Keynote based business is literally all you're doing is you start out with the website. So in the beginning, let's say you're literally starting from scratch. In the beginning, you don't have pictures, no videos, no nothing, right? And so you're like, how do I build a bomb ass website and I don't have a damn thing? And so now you got to figure that out. If you're a Speak Pro member, by the way, all the pictures are in there for you, but you got to figure all that stuff out in terms of the website. You got to figure out how do you actually create a website. If you can't hire somebody to make it, you got to figure out how do you make one yourself. On top of that, it's not just how do you make one, but how do you make a great one? And so you're figuring all that stuff out with the website. Once you get that, now it's like, all right, which CRM do I buy? So now you get a CRM. Now you're like, all right, what do I put in the CRM? How do I use this damn thing? So now you're trying to figure out how to use a CRM, how to customize it, the pipeline and all that sort of stuff. Now you get your email templates in place. So now you have all the email templates. Once you contact an event, you need to know what to say. You need to know how you're going to follow up with the events. So you get all that stuff in place. Once you have it in place, now you start reaching out to them 24/7, because if you only reach out to 10 people a day, you will struggle to get hired. And so this is a difference between what I did and what everybody else is doing now. When you hear people in terms of the speaking industry, they always tell you, what are you the expert in? What are you the expert in? I'll tell you right now, I wasn't an expert in a damn thing before I started speaking. Not a damn thing. Like literally, I was an entertainer. Well, I mean, technically I was an expert in marketing, but that's not what I was speaking about. So I was an entertainer. I was doing all the marketing to get the gigs. Then one day I just described myself as a freaking motivational speaker. Didn't do a single motivational speech, nothing. I was just like, you know what? I'm a motivational speaker, because I realized motivational speakers got paid more. So I claimed to be a motivational speaker while doing an entertainment show at the same time, like doing a mentalism show, right? And so after about a year, someone actually asked me to speak. So that's when I just created a motivational speech, right? But the entire time, it's like it was all focused on cold emailing. I wasn't trying to put out content, wasn't trying to do any of that stuff, which is why I was able to get there faster than everybody else. Just because all I did was one thing, and that was cold email. I learned how to get really good at having email conversations with people in a way that gets them to want to pay me at least $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and up. And so that's what you have to truly get used to. The mindset is very, very different. So between the two businesses, the mindset between a Keynote business and a platform expert business, they're very, very different. Years ago, when I was just doing entertainment, it was entertainment. I was like kind of getting into the speaking stuff. But basically this guy, he was a platform speaker, right? He hired me for his event just to do entertainment, right? So I do the event. Everybody's like, oh my goodness, right? And so everyone flips out. Then all of a sudden, like, we're having lunch. It's just like me, him, and like a couple of his workers. And I'm asking him questions about speakers who speak for free, like on a platform. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Why would someone speak for free? Like, these guys, they're really good, but why are they speaking for free? It didn't make sense to me, because I was like, why would someone speak for free when I'm getting paid 15 grand for a presentation and these guys are speaking for free? Like, it literally did not register in my brain. And it was because they were the platform speakers. They were the expert-based speakers, where their mindset wasn't, I'm going to get paid to be here. Their mindset was, I'm going to use this as a platform to get myself paid later with the products that I'm selling. The mindset was completely different, which is why I didn't get them at first. I was like, that's dumb. Why would I speak for free? Like, that was literally my mindset, right? And so their mindset was like, oh, that dude's dumb, getting paid only 15 grand when he can actually sell products and then get 100 grand, right? So it was the same thing. They were thinking I was dumb. I was thinking they were dumb, right? And so you have to truly separate the businesses. And that's why from now on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change everything in terms of Speaking Lifestyle is just going to be about getting the paid gigs, getting on stages and that sort of thing, and public speaking skills, presentation skills. And then I'm going to use the Benji Bruce brand and that type of the Instagram and all that. Facebook, I'm going to use that to talk about selling your expertise and just marketing yourself, because they're two completely different things. I cannot stress that enough. Literally can't stress it enough. All right. So let's see. So Wani said, this was exactly me this year. Literally shut down my Facebook group and am only focusing on speaking. Now just working on paying off my previous coach as a join your academy. I'm not going to talk about previous coaches, but yeah, that's exactly what you should do, where it's really, really hard for people to stop doing something, because one of the things that happens when you stop doing something is you think about all the people, parents, friends, everybody, all the people who saw you as that person, right? So take, for example, like me as an entertainer, right? So as I did entertainment throughout my entire life. And one day I'm just like, forget it. I just pretty much just stopped, right? But in my mind, I was like, man, I mean, I don't know if I should stop. Like, it's going to be weird when someone's like, Benji, what are you up to? I'm like, building a Keynote business. They're like, what about the performing and all that, right? And so you're thinking about that in your head. And because you're thinking about it, you don't want to just cut off your past. You don't want to just cut off what you were doing to start something new. But that's what you have to do. And so I had to literally say, I'm no longer a mentalist. Like, literally, that's not what I do ever. You can't even hire me for it anymore. You can literally say, we'll pay you 50 grand and well, maybe I'll say yes to that. But if they're like, we'll pay you 5,000, I'm like, absolutely not. They pay you $10,000, absolutely not. And so it's one of those things where you have to cut off your past and you have to say no to a lot of things. So you can literally say, here's what I'm focusing on, to where you can literally do like what Wani did, where you're just like, hey, I get that I was doing all this stuff, content, all this stuff, but what I really want to do is I want to get paid to speak. And the only thing you have to do to get paid to speak is your website and then reach out to events. Anything you do other than that is wasting your time, which means it's going to take you a longer time to get to the end result. And so that's what you have to think. If you're building your expert business, the only thing you have to do is spend money on traffic, aka ads, and then make an offer. That's all you do. Two things. You spend money on traffic and you make an offer. Traffic and offer. If you feel like it, create content, but you don't need to. It's like I said, my friends, literally they did almost $500,000 a day. Literally, and they're not creating any type of content, like literally. And so you got to understand that, you just got to understand the daily activities in terms of what it is you're doing. So let's see. You said the Gmail account I've been using for Yesware was disabled for spamming, sending unsolicited emails. Can I use base CRM to send out my emails, or just Yahoo? What would you suggest? Well, you can just start another Gmail account if you want. Just start another Gmail account and then do it from there. Yesware is a million times better than Base when it comes to the emails, because that's all Yesware does. And so, so Base, it's not even close. It's like literally, it's not a competition. It's like literally, if you want to send out mass emails and you want to understand like how the whole process works, you got to use something like Yesware. And so, so yeah, just start a new Gmail account and use something different. And then also remember, in terms of Gmail, there's a limit. I think it's 150 emails a day. So it's either 150 or 200. You got to Google that. But there's a limit in terms of how many you can send out per day. But I mean, if you're sending out 100 per day, you're good to go. So let's see. Nick says, so how do I decide to focus? So how do you decide? I guess you meant to say, so how do I decide which to focus on first? That's technically up to you. So a lot of questions people ask are questions that you have to decide, right? Nobody can tell you what you want to do. It's almost like someone telling you what your hobby should be. It's like, your hobby should be poker. Nobody can tell you what your hobby should be. Nobody can tell you which one you should do first. Nobody can say, all right, do Keynote first and then do the expert thing, or do the expert thing, then Keynote. Nobody can tell you that. That's just something that you want to do. The best thing you can do is just get information on the daily activities of both and then decide from there in terms of which one you want to do on a day-to-day basis. So on a day-to-day basis, what you're going to do with getting Keynote gigs, you're literally going to be sitting at your computer damn near all day, every day, inside of your CRM, sending out emails, contacting events. That's literally what you're going to be doing damn near all day, every day. If you want to build your expert-based business, you're going to be doing a lot of different things, like depending on if you have a product. So if you don't have a product, you'll create a product first. Like you'll actually record videos. So you got to learn the video. You got to maybe edit it if you don't have an editor. So you got to do that. You got to learn how to do things like, and create the online portion if it's going to be an online program. So you got to learn how to protect your content and all that stuff when people pay for it. Got to learn the shopping cart, how all that stuff works. So you got to learn that. You're going to be spending money on ads on a day-to-day basis every single day. You're going to make sure, check the ads, make sure that it's not running up and make sure it's still going. So you do that on a day-to-day basis. You're going to be sending out emails. So you're going to be writing emails on a day-to-day basis to send out to your list. You're going to be, creating content. You don't have to do like daily content, but you're going to be creating content and stuff like that. So you just got to understand the day-to-day activities that you're going to be engaging in, and then think to yourself, which one do I really want to do on a day-to-day basis? And then imagine what the end result is going to actually be. So the end result of the Keynote business, of you reaching out to all the events, is you're going to fill up your calendar with 50, 60, 70 events a year, speaking on a stage. That's going to be the end result of that. The end result of your online business, the expert business, is going to basically be online. You will not be speaking on a lot of stages. I can't stress that enough. You will not be speaking on a lot of stages when you're the expert. The reason is because you're going to be so focused on actually selling your programs that you won't have time to reach out to people to speak on their stages. And so this is why you see people who have like top-notch podcasts, or like number 1, number 2 in the podcast, and then they don't speak on other stages. They don't speak on stages because that's not their business model. And so you got to understand the difference between the two in terms of daily activities, then decide from there. So let's see. Stop using the crutch word right at the end of sentences. Right. I'll make sure I stop doing that, right? So let's see. Tammy said, you were an expert. Entertainment is a product. Yeah, I technically was an expert. I just didn't think about it. So let's see. Richard said, okay, so you have a great website and you book gigs by emailing. So when do you put together your talk? You put together your talk when you actually book the talk. That's literally what I did. I was like, all right, once I finally said I'm a motivational speaker, I went for like a whole year being a motivational speaker without actually doing a motivational speech. Then someone said, what do you talk about? And I just made it up on the spot. Like, oh, just talk about like, just like really committing, going all in. I just made something up on the spot. And then once they hired me, then I was like, let me actually create a speech real quick. And that's what I did. And my speech was basically bullet points. Let's see. So before I did that, I did like a practice speech. It was actually for my old high school principal. He was a new high school principal at some other high school. And so I went and I did the speech. I completely forgot. Well, no, I didn't forget my speech, but I ran out of what to say. I had 60 minutes and I ran out of what to say in about 15 minutes because I completely underestimated how much I needed to, actually write down and bullet point stuff, right? So in my head, so here's the thing. When you're actually performing, what you do in terms of the list you create is like you create a list of the names of the effects that you want to do. So like I would do 6 things, right? So for a full hour show, it'd be 6, like 6.5, 6, 7. It's like the half is kind of like a demonstration, but not really. But let's say 6, 7 things I'm going to do, and that would fill up an entire hour, literally just about 6 demonstrations. And so I did the same thing when I created my speech. I wrote down like 6 bullet points. I'm like, all right, this. All right, I'm good to go. That's literally what I did for my first speech. I get up in front of the high school, start out crushing it and all that. And then all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I'm about 3/4 of the way through. I check my watch. I'm like, oh my goodness. I noticed, oh my goodness, I just did about 10 minutes. I've got about 50 minutes to go, and I'm literally damn near done with my speech. And so that's when I start slowing down. I'm like slowing down what I'm saying. Instead of me talking fast, I'm like, and what you have to do to alter the course of your life is you just want to, like I was slowing down my speech because I'm like, oh, dang it, this sucks. And so at the end, I literally finished 5 minutes later. I'm like, cause when I finished, I'm thinking at least I killed another 10, 15 minutes, but I look, I'm like, damn, I only killed 5, right? And so the whole time I'm like, damn, this sucks. So, luckily I was smart enough to actually bring things for me to perform. So what I did when I was done, I was like, you know what, guys? I noticed that I didn't actually show you guys what I do for a living. And so that's when I started performing. I was like, I need a couple volunteers. And so that's when I did that. And so ultimately what you do is you sell the thing first and then you create it. Hopefully you're smart enough when you create your speech that you don't do what I did in terms of it's a lot shorter than it should have been. But the way you create your speech is after you sell it. So that's really what you want to do. It's like most stuff to where you're going to create it and then, or no, you're going to sell it and then you're going to create it. All right, let's see. So we got that. As a keynote speaker, don't I need to have my signature talk? All right, so I just mentioned that. All right, so let's see. I've been sending out 400 emails a day. That's probably the problem. All right. Yeah. So Bill, in terms of sending out 400 emails a day, so it's like, when you're sending out 400 emails a day, this is one of the things where, one, how are you getting the 400 emails a day to send out to? So is it like a list that you previously had, or are you actually generating this in terms of, it all depends on how you're actually doing it, like how you're actually sending out these emails and stuff. But yeah, 400 emails a day, it must be like a previous list that you had, and that's how you're sending them out. But what you want to do ultimately is you want to basically prospect and build your own list, build your own prospecting list to reach out to. That's what you ultimately want to do. You don't want to like buy email lists or anything like that. So let's see. How do you choose a topic to speak on? So the way you choose a topic to speak on is you start out by deciding, like, have an idea of what kind of speaker you want to be. Like, do you want to be a motivational speaker, leadership speaker, or sales speaker? Those are pretty much the only speakers who get paid, by the way. So motivational speaker, leadership speaker, sales speaker, or maybe like a creativity, innovation, technology type speaker, right? So you kind of decide which one you want to be. From there, what you're ultimately doing in the beginning is you're trying to figure out like a message to market match. The problem everybody has in the beginning of anything, not just speaking, of anything, is they say, here's what I'm selling. Without wondering if that's what people buy, they just say, here's what I'm selling. That's literally what people do. The speakers, everything. They're like, my signature talk is this. I'm going to speak about this. I'm going to sell this. Instead of saying, what do people buy? That's all you have to do. So all you do is you say, okay, well, what do people buy? All right. Motivational speakers are the number one speakers that people pay for. All right. So I'm going to be a motivational speaker. And then at that point, you literally just contact events. So you're sitting there contacting events. Like, I'm a motivational speaker. You have no signature talk, no nothing. Don't know what it's called. Don't know what it's about. Nothing. You just start contacting events. I'm the greatest motivational speaker in the world. And then all of a sudden, finally, someone says, oh, okay. Yeah, we're interested. What do you talk about? And then you just make it up right there and then. Like, oh, well, you look at their business. Let's say it's a real estate company that responded to you. Oh, yeah, we hire motivational speakers. What do you talk about? You're like, oh, well, I mean, what I would do is I would help like motivate your real estate agents to sell more so they can actually get more listings and buyers and like really just motivate them, inspire them to do their marketing better. Bam, that's lit. That's literally all you do. That's what I did for years. Like literally, that's what I did for years. I just said, all right, let me just contact people. When they say, what do I speak about? I'm going to now look at their website and figure out how do I fit into their event. That's literally what you do. The problem, like I said, is everybody keeps saying, here's what I speak about. Here's what I want to sell. And then by doing that, you almost always set yourself up for failure because it's like trying to fit it's like trying to fit a round cylinder into a triangle or into a square hole, right? So you just can't. It doesn't matter how bad you want to talk about this thing or whatever. If you're selling something people don't buy, you literally won't make any money. And so you have to combine the two. It's like I know my past as an entertainer. I got really, really good at marketing. And at the same time, I understood the mind in general and just motivation in general. So I understood, hey, I can talk about marketing and motivation. I can talk about those. I didn't come out with a whole speech yet, but I knew I could talk about those. On the other hand, if someone said, hey, can you talk about, let's say, technology? Like that's not something I would have just kind of went into saying, oh, I'm going to be a speaker on technology. Because of course I can do technology the way everybody else can, but it's not like Mark Zuckerberg status where he knows way more about technology than I do. So I just simply said, what do I know about, kind of know about? That's what I'm going to go into. And then when people actually hire me, that's when I'll flesh out the idea. So that's literally what you're doing. So we got that. That's what you're doing, right? So let's see. Previous list of 4,900 emails. So Bill, based on what that list is, I'd probably just get rid of the list, to be honest. I would just get rid of the list and then just build up your own prospecting list from scratch. All right, So let's see. Kathy said, I intended to ask if there's any message they want to deliver or they want delivered. All right. Yeah, you can do that as well. So let's see. Thoughts on compiling lists quickly so that we can reach out to. So the way you essentially build up your prospecting list is you just Google it. So like I have different ways to actually find events, like Hootsuite and Twitter, all sorts of ways to find events, but still the best way is Google. Like that is hands down the best way to find events. You just simply create a list of keywords and hashtags that you want to use, and then you Google it, and you go on Google, you type in whatever that keyword is. You look under, let's say the regular search, you look under the image search, you change the date of the search. So like on Google, you can type in, let's say I go to, let me just show you so let's do this. All right. So like, let's say here on Google, I typed in award banquet. So here I can like look for all these events that's going on, and there's different ways I can just filter out this one keyword. So award banquet, I can go over here to images, and now here's a ton of other events I can look at in terms of all those events. I can also, let's say I'll go back here. I can go over here where it says tools. I can click where it says anytime. I can filter this out based on the past year, past month, past week. So now I have different events popping up through here as well, just based on the past month and things like that, right? And so just on one keyword, I can find thousands, hundreds of thousands of events instantly based on one keyword. It's one of the reasons why I just use Google all the time. And on top of that, you copy and paste, put it into the CRM. So it's really easy to do it straight from Google versus like when I would do from Instagram, I would use a keyword on Instagram, let's say award banquet, and then it's harder to copy and paste stuff and put it into the CRM and all that. So it's just harder to do it that way. But still, I actually do use Instagram to find events, by the way. So let's see. You said, it is a prospecting list. I have of colleges and universities and youth market. Okay, yeah. So that's a good prospecting list for colleges and the youth market and all that sort of stuff. It's a good list. All right, but what I do know in terms of colleges is that it keeps changing in terms of who you need to talk to. So the colleges may not be right in terms of who you need to talk to. So you want to check that out. All right, cool. Any other final questions before we are done for today? But once again, I want to stress the importance of the difference between the two. Speakers, for some reason, I think it's just because the bad advice, hands down, just bad speaking advice out there, where people associate that you need to be an expert in the industry to get these paid gigs and everything like that. They're two completely different businesses. I just can't stress that enough. You simply want to think about the daily activities that you're going to be engaging in order to actually achieve the end result that you want to achieve. So what's the end result you want? If you want to actually speak on a stage, the way you achieve that result is by reaching out to people. That is how you achieve that result. You do not need to spend any money on Facebook ads, Instagram ads, none of that stuff. You simply reach out to people to get on a stage. If you want to be an expert and you're sitting there thinking about the podcast and all that, you have to think about, what are you selling? What exactly do you want to sell? Do you want to sell your workshops? Do you want to sell an online program? Do you want to sell coaching? What are you selling? And from there, you think about, how do people buy that thing? And so that's what you ultimately have to think about. The way people buy a speech is they simply, first thing is they think, who do I know? So they're thinking, all right, let's hire a speaker for our event. Like, who do I know? Have I seen anybody at an event before or whatever? If they can't think of anybody, then they'll ask like, oh, who do you know? So they'll talk to a colleague. Do you know of anybody? Okay. They don't know anybody. Okay. Now they'll go to Google. So now they'll simply type in motivational speaker in Florida, motivational speaker in Las Vegas, inspirational speaker. They'll do a Google search at that point. And so if you can pop up in the first two where they say, who do I know? If you can pop up right there, or who do you know, then at that point, you're more likely to get the gig. And so that's all you have to do to get the keynote gigs. To be the expert, you have to think, what exactly am I selling? Am I selling an online program? Okay, I'm selling an online program. I'm going to be the expert. I'm solving a specific problem. How do I sell this online program? Well, the way you sell it is you build an email list. You build an email list by spending money on ads. And then from there, once they're on your email list, you now sell the program by making an offer in your email. You simply say, hey, buy my stuff, or I'm going to send the mob your way and they're going to come kill your cat. And so you simply make an offer in the email. And from there, you just have to be persuasive by telling them you're going to kill their cat, that you're going to kill their dog, unless they buy your programs. So that's what you do in order to build your expert-based business. And there we go. So let's see if there are any final questions. Say, hey, I'm hoping my TEDx will start my speaking business. It's doing well online, and I'm emailing. I got like this glare. All right, there we go. And I'm emailing to everyone I can think of, not sure what to do from here. I do have a relatively new website up, which is very nice. I think I'm blasting everything all over social media. Ugh. And she included the by the way, in case you guys can't see that. There's a couple things. So first, when you say the TEDx is going to start your speaking business, the TEDx is just going to be a video that you're going to use on your website. That's all it's going to be at this point. There's a huge misnomer in terms of thinking, if I do this, then I'm going to blow up, right? So it's like back in the day, if you were on Oprah, then yeah, you'd probably blow up. A lot of people would know who you are. Nowadays, if you're on TV, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't even make a dent in your business. And so it's one of those things where TEDx, it doesn't really matter if you speak at TEDx or not. I haven't spoken at a TED event, nothing. And so it doesn't matter if you speak at TEDx. It's just another video that you use for your website. That's all it is. And so that's all that is. In terms of reaching out, when you're reaching out, that's the right thing to do. The problem is probably the way you're reaching out to them, and also your website. I can't see your website, but it's also your website. If your website isn't great, you're just going to have a hard time getting hired just in general, right? And so you have to make sure your website is great, and then you have to make sure that when you're reaching out, you're saying the right things and you're saying it the right way. Every speaker does it the wrong way when they're reaching out to events, because you don't know how to do it the right way. It would be like, it's like learning copywriting, right? So if you don't know how to do copywriting, you won't be a good copywriter in the beginning. That's literally what pitching is. Pitching is literally copywriting. So you have to, one of the things I suggest you do is just buy copywriting books and really study copywriting in general. And then you'll get better at writing the emails and having those conversations to get you hired. All right. And then also the other thing, I noticed you posted a YouTube link. I'm assuming that's a YouTube link to your TED Talk. It's really important that when you're pitching, you don't send people to YouTube. You send them to your website, because when you pitch, the purpose of your email pitch is to get them to click on the link to your website. When they click on the link to your website, the purpose of your website is to sell them on you. So if you send them to YouTube, what I did is I targeted other speakers on YouTube, because I knew there were a lot of dummy speakers out there sending people to their YouTube channels. So what I did is I said, target these people. So whenever someone clicks on their YouTube video, what ad is going to pop up? My demo video. That's what happened every single time. And literally I had people tell me, oh yeah, we hired you. We actually were looking for so-and-so, but we saw your video. And literally I've had people tell me that, because I was smart enough to literally put my stuff before they actually saw the other speaker's stuff. Not only before, but then also on the right side where you see the ad on the right side. So let's say they watch so-and-so's demo. Well, now they're on YouTube. So what else can they do on YouTube? Hey, there's a suggested video of this other motivational speaker. Let me watch that one. So that's what happens. That's how I got a lot of business through YouTube, is just by taking advantage of other speakers sending people to YouTube. So it's like they were doing my marketing for me. They do the marketing. They'd say, hey, I'm a great speaker. Here's a link to the video, right? They send a link, a YouTube link, and poof, who popped up? Me. And so that's what happens when you don't send people to your website. You just have very strategic people like me who just take advantage of it 100%. So let's see. Wani said, what about temporarily using platform speaking as a cash infusion and to get photos to improve the website? Also, for example, I had a horrible December and January in my law firm, still prospecting for paid gigs, but what I like to do this week is go into church and do a free workshop at the end. Yeah, so here's the problem. So you need to do stuff for free in the beginning. Hands down, you need to do stuff for free to get all the footage. But you're still confusing the platform business with the Keynote business. The platform business is where you're speaking on a stage. You will almost never get paid as a platform speaker. In fact, most platform speakers refuse to get paid because they would rather sell something. So it's like, in terms of getting Keynote gigs, in the beginning, if you don't have all the video footage and all that sort of stuff, you not only speak for free, you pay to be on someone's stage if you have to. The purpose is to get the video footage, the testimonials, and all that stuff for your website. So you're not sitting out there, you're not sending emails saying, hey, who hires the speakers? You're saying, hey, are you the person in charge of bringing in the speakers? You don't ask for money in the beginning. You just say, who's in charge of bringing in the speakers? And then from there, they'll say, oh, I'm in charge of bringing in the speakers, fill out this form or whatever. And in the beginning, you do everything. Like in the beginning, you fill out these forms, RFP forms, all that sort of stuff. You do whatever it takes to get on the stage in the beginning so you can get that video footage. But when you say, what about temporarily using platform speaking as a cash infusion to get photos and all that? The problem with temporarily using platform or temporarily being an expert before you do Keynote or whatever is there is no such thing as temporarily. It's one of the things where it's almost like saying, before I start getting really good at poker, I want to play chess just for a month. I'm just going to do it for a month. I'm going to get really good at chess for a month, and then I'll switch to poker. It's almost like, why would you even waste your time? You won't get good at chess in a month. No matter how smart you are, you won't get good at chess in a month. There's no possible way you can get that good at chess in a month. And so you might as well just say, let me just do this thing 24/7. And so the same goes if you want to get paid gigs, you simply say, all right, to get paid gigs, I keep reaching out to events. The only difference is instead of me asking them to pay me, I just say I'll speak for free. And then on top of that, you contact conferences and you say, hey, I'll be a sponsor at your event as long as I can speak on the stage and you guys record it type thing, right? And so it's just that's what you're doing very differently. But it's really, really important that you separate the two in your brain because they are two completely different things. Let's say even workshops, right? People think an event is an event. Like they think that doing a workshop event as a speaker and getting paid gigs is the same thing. It is not. It is completely different. Getting paid gigs, you are going to their event, they bring the audience there, all that sort of stuff. If you're going to do a workshop, now your mind is focused on, well, what the hell do I talk about at this workshop? All right, how do I actually get people to attend the workshop? So now your mind has to focus on completely different things. Once again, you're spending money on advertising to do Facebook ads, Instagram ads to get people to the workshop. You're spending the mind share, the time that you're thinking about what to talk about in the workshop. You're spending all that time doing that with your workshops, whereas the Keynote, once again, all you do with Keynotes is contact events. That's all you do with Keynotes. So it's really, really important that you separate the two because by thinking they're the same thing, you end up doing activities for one that doesn't help the other. And so that's just what naturally happens. So it's really, really important that you separate the two. So let's see. How do you do that on YouTube? What do you mean? Oh, okay. The strategy that was, so YouTube, it just allows you to target specific pages that people are monetizing. So you can actually say, I want to target, Gary Vaynerchuk's page or whatever. So you can target specific pages. And then in terms of the ads on the right side, I forgot what those are called, but there's a name for those ads, and then you just target like in a specific way. But honestly, it's a lot of detailed stuff, but I don't recommend doing it until you have a great website for one, and then until you're actually good at the outreach. The problem that I see a lot of speakers with Keynote gigs is they think that they can just sit down, maybe create an ad like Google ad, and then poof, gigs are going to come to them. You have to truly get it through your head that business will never come to you. It absolutely will never, ever, ever come to you. Never. There is no such thing. Especially when you're getting Keynote gigs, it will not come to you. Even with inbound marketing requires you to do things like spend money on advertising, which requires you to get good at knowing how to do the ads in the first place and all that sort of stuff. People don't factor in the execution with the fantasy. So the fantasy is I can just create an ad and then gigs are going to come to me. What they don't do is they don't factor in the execution of how do you actually create the ad. So like you got to set up the pixel pixel on your website. You got to set up, let's say, assuming Facebook ads. So you set up a pixel on your website. You got to make sure you know how to actually go into the Power Editor, do all that sort of stuff. You got to figure out all that sort of stuff, right? Google AdWords, same thing. And you got to figure out all this stuff with Google AdWords before you even place an ad. And so nobody factors in the execution of it. They just factor in, I'm just going to place an ad. And then poof, business is going to come to me. It's one of the reasons why I say, like, you have to focus on one thing, because it's going to take you a lot longer than you possibly imagine, because there's a huge learning curve in the beginning. It just went straight up. Learning curve in the beginning. There we go. So it's really, really important that you focus on one thing. You can't say, I'm going to reach out and do Google AdWords. You say, I'm only going to reach out. That's all I'm going to do. That's what you have to do. Even though both work in terms of getting paid gigs, Google AdWords works and then Keynote gigs works. The problem is, how do you do Google AdWords the right way? You got to make sure you put the code on your website. You got to make sure that you have a really good ad, make sure you're split testing, all that sort of stuff. And all that stuff is stuff that you're going to learn eventually, right? So let's see. Tammy said, if we do a sponsored gig, do we require them to at least cover travel? No, in the beginning, you can't say anything. In the beginning, you're building your business. You can't request a damn thing. You have to get on your knees and beg them to bring you in as a speaker. You got to say, like, please, man, not only will I pay you guys, I'll pay for my travel, I'll pay for my food. Hell, I'll pay for your food. Please just let me on a stage, please. That's what you're doing in the beginning, because you need that footage. Like, you need the footage, you need the pictures, you need the testimonial. So you have to think of it as advertising costs. That's what you think of it as. Eventually, once you have it, now you're just like, okay, now I don't need to beg like that. So now I'll just be like, all right, yeah, sure, I'll come speak for free. And it's like, oh, well, will you pay for your flight and hotel? Okay, sure. He says 500 people. Okay, sure. And then you get that, and you get that footage, right? Then all of a sudden you're like, all right, now I got footage of that, 500 people. Now, next event, you're like, sure, I'll speak for free. Oh, well, you got to pay for your flight and hotel. Actually, nah. I'm good. If you guys pay for flight and hotel, then I'll do it. But I'm good right now, because you don't need it at this point, right? And then eventually someone says, okay, sure, we'll pay for flight and hotel. You get footage again, footage, testimonies, all that sort of stuff. Now you're at a point where you're like, okay, I got plenty of stuff. My website looks bomb diggity, looks great as all hell. Now you're like, look, pay me. And so that's the progression. In the beginning, you have to do things that you can't not do, like eventually, right? In the beginning, you literally, so there's two things. If you want to be on a stage, and this doesn't matter in terms of what it is you charge or anything, you could literally have been a speaker for 30 years, charging 20 grand a gig. But if you're not doing all the events that you want to do, like let's say you want to do 50 events, 70 events a year, but you don't have any gigs lined up the next couple months, then you will speak for free. Like, you literally say, hey, I'll speak for free or whatever, just to be on a stage. Whereas in the beginning, the other option is, in the beginning, you damn near have to speak on a stage for free and pay to be on there, because you just have to. And so I've got a friend, this entertainer, he is busy as all hell. But when he's not busy, like he'll charge normally, let's say $7,500 for a gig. When he's not busy, he'll still do a gig for $200, because he just wants to be on a stage. And so it all depends on you specifically. But in the beginning, like I said, you're freaking on your knees. Please let me be on your stage. Please, I'll pay for my flight, my hotel. I'll pay for your food, man. Please, I just want to be on your stage. That's what you're doing in the beginning. And literally in the beginning, that's what you have to do. Because your mindset is just, how do I get the right marketing materials? That's your mindset in the beginning. All right, any other final questions before we are done for today? But once again, I want to stress the importance of the two different businesses. The daily activities of your Keynote business is you get your website up and you reach out to events. Cold email and cold calling, you just reach out to events that way. When you build your expert-based business, there are a lot of things you technically got to do, but basically on a day-to-day basis, you're focusing on traffic and offer. So it's like the traffic, how do you get traffic, spending money on ads, and then the offer, how do you actually offer your program or whatever it is you're offering, online program, coaching program, event, or workshop type thing. How do you offer that thing in a way that people are going to buy that thing? And so the daily activities are very, very different. So it's really important that you truly drill that inside of your brain. So see, Wani said, yeah, that's where I'm at. It's been 4 months since I was on stage. My 2 gigs for January got canceled. Yeah, if you haven't been on stage, don't ask for money. Like, not only don't ask for money, but if you have to, pay to be on a stage. And so that's what you want to do in the beginning. Well, not even in the beginning, but like I said, even if you've been speaking for 20, 30 years and you're not on stages, just, if you want to get on stage, just get on a stage. Be like, hey, I'll do it for free. Like, you just do that, right? That's what you have to do in the beginning. All right, cool. So we are good to go. Wait, all right, cool. Yeah, so we are good to go. So I will, wait, hold on a second. All right. So we are not doing a Facebook Live tomorrow. I will be doing a Facebook Live on somebody else's Facebook Live. So we will not be doing a Facebook Live tomorrow. So we'll start 9 a.m. on Wednesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we were doing the Facebook Lives. So thanks everybody for showing up. I will see you guys Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Take care, everybody. Right?